6 games, Tuesday, breaking down Mick Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and it's a bad day to be a beer. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bluesky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app, use the code LOCKEDONNBA and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Also, give us a double bang. Listen to the audio side, watch the video side, maybe do it 30, 40 times. That's up to you as we head towards Operation 90K, the annexation of Canada. Go ahead and get those thumbs and all that sort of stuff. And check out Locked On Daily as well for the best newsletter regarding your favorite team. Tuesday, 6 games, not 6 days. Only one day on Tuesday, surprisingly. It's a day. We've got 6 games that we've got to talk about. There's some pretty good games in there. There was you always get a blowout or two, but another day of some really strong games in the NBA. Some big variance, nut kicks, some interesting performances. We got some injury updates. It's all happening here. That's what we need to get into. So let's just do it. Let's just talk about what the news that we've got to talk about, and you will be stunned. Actually, I beg you. If you are driving the car, chuck your hazards on, pull over. If you're sitting down, put your phone on. Don't put your phone on Do Not Disturb because you're watching it maybe on the phone or on your TV. Gather the kids around. Get everyone around, your wife. Say, hey, Dal, love, I know you're busy doing something that you think is important, but it's nothing. It's actually nothing in comparison to the news that Josh is about to drop. I'll give you, just pause it if you want here. Go bring him in. Get everyone in to talk about this because we got an update that is just so mind-blowing. It's so staggering. I can't believe it happened. Norman Powell has been ruled out tomorrow with a hamstring injury after he hurt it yesterday and was deemed fine to come back into the game. And that's probably the first time that's ever happened in the NBA in the last 7 hours. What is with these idiots? I apologize to the health and training staff. I apologize to the strength and conditioning staff. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if it's them. Surely it is not. I do not know. Because you're sitting there going, Josh, again with the hamstrings. Right? That's what you're saying, yes? Stop it with the hamstrings. Do you think you know more about them than the hamstrings? Well, I think I might. Because the fact that you have to say stop talking about it means that it has happened that many times. It's already happened multiple times this season. Where a player has hurt his hamstring, goes to the locker room, comes back out, and then he's out. I'm not sure if it happened to Tyrese Maxey, but it happened to definitely one other person this season. We saw the rush back with Halliburton last season. We also saw the Miles Bridges return after the bone bruise thing. We've seen it with Paul George in the past with a hamstring. What are you guys doing? He strained his hamstring. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So I don't know how long Norm's going to be out. Again, he came back in after the injury. And then when I did the daily preview show earlier today, I said, the injury report's not out. I'm just going to just sneakily put Norm Powell on the injury report because I'm pretty sure he's going to pop up after they screwed it up yesterday. Wouldn't you know it? Just insane idiocy. I believe now that will rule Norm Powell out. Well, it should rule him out for 3 weeks, but it won't. I would say for the rest of this week that he won't play. It would be my guess. But honestly, I just don't know. The big question now is, after that nonsense, is what do we do? Who's the replacement? And I think it's going to be messy. They're already starting Chris Dunn. It will help him a couple more shots, but that's not what he is. He's not a shot merchant. He doesn't live off that stuff. So just give him a little bit more security. Last game, Kevin Porter Jr. had a bit of a hard fall. That limited some of his minutes. He's not on the injury report. So you could make the argument that he starts. I don't think he will. I think he'll come off the bench, but I think his minutes will rise because he's playing as the backup point guard, and then they can stagger him and Jimmy Harden together. What I think you will get is Amir Coffey. I think Fewick will move into the starting lineup, and I think that he'll be the guy that steps into that role. The other guy to watch for those of you in the double onyx, marble titanium, platinum alloy leagues, Jordan Miller. Very good foul drawer, nice scorer, decent size. I think he might turn out to be a good player. That's a guy in the deepest of leagues where I even heard in some of those leagues, the double Onyx leagues, that Andrew Gaze has been rostered. Don't quote me on that. I mean, you can if you want, but check if Andrew Gaze is available. He might be there. Just check, just a name. But yeah, keep an eye on Jordan Miller in the very, very deep formats. I think Coffey will start. Terrence Mann will get more minutes. Dunn will get more minutes. Porter will get more minutes. And if you've got a four-sided coin, which nobody has because they don't exist, four-sided die also don't exist, but there's 4 different options there of who will be able to take the place of Norm. And it's one of those ones where I don't think we can necessarily nail it down. I would keep Dunn if I've got him. Coffey and Porter. Porter's a better producer per minute, so you go that way, but there is a risk because he doesn't start. But yeah, I think we're missing Powell for a little bit of time here. Godspeed, little doodle. Zach Edey, another great example of the stuff that we bang on about a lot on this show, and by we, I mean me, is that Zach Edey hurt his ankle, had to be helped to the locker room. Okay, he came back in after spraining his ankle, hurt it again. I'm not really going to put that one on the train stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. But there was a period in the game where someone was talking about Zachy, how is the ankle? Is he all good? And gave a thumbs up. Players are the worst. Do not listen to a thing that a player, despite what grifting asshats will tell you, the players actually want to play and they will push through so much stuff to get out there and play. They will do that. Every time a player is going to be asked about an injury, they are going to downplay it every single time. Every time. I'm fine, I'll be back. I'll probably next game. 2 weeks later, what's going on, my guy? So Zach Edey, not only is he ruled out for today, not only is he ruled out for tomorrow, he's week to week. So that's at least a week. It's probably 2. It might be 3. I don't know. We'll talk about the Grizzlies and his replacement later on, as they copped another injury. But yeah, remember, players, worst judge. Don't listen to them. Don't care what they say. They are the worst judges of injury. I'm not even saying they're lying. They're just going to be on the hyper-optimistic side. And then, of course, Bradley Beal. Oh, what do you know? Like, oh, no, I'm fine. I just kicked myself in the calf. Oh, did you? Why has that lasted a week? So he's out again. So we just can roll out the same sort of stuff. The same guys are out. Is it another Iguodala? Well, actually, that's not true because Nurkic is questionable. He may or not play. Is Iguodala going to get the minutes? Grayson Allen's the guy that I want over everybody. And then it turns into an O'Neal, Iguodala sort of mixture, maybe Dunn. But I think I actually like Iguodala more than Ryan Dunn in that sort of setting. Let's talk about some waiver wire trends over your last 48 hours. Who's added, who's dropped? Are they the correct moves? What do we think? The most added player is the big fella in LA, Dalton Knecht. Yep, should have added him. I don't know how long it lasts, but Rui Hachimura is out. And also, Rui Hachimura is not good. So that's an easy decision. But we'll talk about that Lakers game later on. I think Knecht is going to have, even though I think some of his stuff will cool off, he's going to have a pretty sustained run here of being at least a back-end player. John Isaac, one of the most added players. We'll talk about the Magic? No, the Magic didn't play today, did they? No, we'll talk about the Magic. We'll talk about John Isaac now. Fine. He did the thing. He got the defensive stats. They've got a little 3-game in fortnight coming up, and he is playing back-to-backs. So I don't mind that as an ad. Dorian Finney-Smith, great ad for today. I actually think while Claxton's out, he probably should be on 12-team rosters. Rob Williams, we don't really have clarification apart from DeAndre Ayton being doubtful. Simons is questionable. So Ayton's doubtful. So yeah, we're adding Williams and Klingon. Leaky Beasley, that could really blow up in your face because Hardaway's back, and yeah, Hardaway shot 10% last game. Shout out to Desmond Bain. That's a future tease for the rest of the show. Leaky was great, but he might shoot 10 in the next game. He's always a risky proposition. And then Jaden McDaniels, yeah, I think he's moved off stream territory. That could very easily go Pat Williams on us, but he's been playing well. And when someone's playing well and you're seeing it a few times and you got a secure role, do it. No worries. Most drop players, Keyshawn George. Yes, Brogdon's back and Kuzma's back, and the Wizards are limiting George. I think he'll have value later in the year, but you can move off of him. And Royce O'Neal, no worries. The opportunity was there to do it. He had one of the more brutal shooting stretches you'll ever see. Nothing went in, so you move off of him. And he might be good again. I don't know. Moussa Diabate, absolutely, totally jack-worthy. Get that garbage out of here! Marcus Smart's been dropped. He missed again today. He might be back tomorrow. And if he is, you stream him in. Jaime Jaquez, they don't play till Sunday. He's not very good. Easy drop. And then Najee Marshall, who played today, which is a little, I guess it's over 48 hours. But PJ's back. So Najee, totally reasonable to consider him a drop. we've got the 6 games. We've got a absolute PJ Washington classic to talk about. We've got Thunder Spurs, and we've got the absolute barn burner coming up right after this. It is the Cavs and the Celtics. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, all of you new customers, you don't even know that you're new customers yet, but you will be. When you are a new customer, you go in and you place a $5 bet, and that $5 bet wins, you get $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel, the sportsbook app, so many great little features, and the best thing to do is when you're doing the live bets, instead of having to scrounge or trawl, and I made it one word, and then also still mispronounce that one word. When you're going through the internet and you think, where's my live play-by-play? Where's the live stats? You don't worry about it. The FanDuel Sportsbook app has it all there in the same place where you would place those live bets. So in the middle of the game, you get that hunch, bang, it is all there, easy to do, place your live NFL bets. Go to FanDuel.com today to join and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And do not forget to gamble responsibly. Okay. Should we go into games? It's probably the right time to do it, isn't it? So let's do it. The Cavs Celtics. The Celtics got out to a huge lead in this game. And when you look at the final score, well, obviously, 120-117 seems close. Because it was. There was a furious Cavs run in what was the third, I think it was. Cleveland made a couple of changes to their lineup. Don Mitchell returned after resting, and that meant that Milk moved back to the back of the fridge, and Slammin' Sammy Merrill started because not only was starter Max Strus out, but replacement Dean Wade was out, and then his replacement Isaac Okoro was out. So Sam Merrill started. There was also no Karis LeVert. So yes, the Cavs' winning streak, the undefeated start to the season is over. They were missing 1 million players. I thought it was another fantastic effort from the koala, Evan Mobley. 22-11-6, triple one. He has really stepped his game up this season. Look at his free throws as well. They are, I think they're 77 or 78. He was immense in that run that they had. He is, I won't say he's their best player, but he's not far away. I think he's going to be unbelievably good. And we are seeing the outlines. Don Mitchell played 40 minutes, copped a couple of hard falls, 35 and 8, 3 threes, 29 shots, 45%. They play the Pelicans tomorrow. Do not be surprised if we get a Mitchell soreness, back, hip, injury report notification. I was going through this morning before this game and doing some adjustments to the Cavs projections rest of the season. I was like, man, Darius Garland's on 59% on twos. Wow, that's a ridiculous number. He's only 51, 52 the past years. Okay, he's crazy. Like, who does he think he is? Nikola Vucevic. That's a crazy number. It's probably going to come down. Garland shot 14% on 21 attempts today for 8 points. Sick. He had 7 assists, he had a steal and a block. And when we talk about regression, there are 2 ways it happens. It's a slow regression. So let's use his 2-point percentage. Maybe for 3 weeks, he goes at 51%. And eventually, it comes back and he's sitting at 52, 53. Or you get a couple of these games where he just cannot hit a single shot and everything goes awry and you're back to where you were before. It's almost the reverse Fred VanVleet, where you just have a couple of 10% games to make everyone piss their pants and then you start to get things cracking in the other direction. Garland has been unbelievable, dominating performances, and this one slaps the wrong way. Not the good slaps, but the bad one that involves, what did the 5 fingers say to the face? It's one of those. It's bad. He'll be fine. Don't worry. With everyone out, and by everyone I mean LeVert, Strus, Okoro, and Wade, we got Craig Porter Jr., who we saw last season put up numbers. 15, 3, and 3 with 3 threes. Keep an eye, because if Okoro, LeVert, Strus, he'll be out anyway, but if Mitchell then joins it, tomorrow you might stream in old Craig. Milk continued to be the best shooter in the world. Sorry, Vooch. 80% for him, 10, 1, and 5 with 1 steal in 28 minutes. I don't think he's a 12-team league player, old Ty Jerome, but when there are limited games on and then there are limited guards on this team, you can consider looking at him. Or Jarrett Allen, 10 and 11, not his best game at all. And then Merrill in his start had 6 points with 2 threes. We will talk, let's talk Boston Celtics now, because they did bring back Drew Holiday, who missed the last game, and that meant the Pascal Donata and Amash Keita moved to the bench. Let's start with Drew. He played only 28 minutes in this game. That's a little worrying. Last game, especially when you compare and contrast to the other starters' minutes, and yes, there are rotation patterns and all that there, but 37 for Brown, 42 for White, 32 for Horford, and 38 for Tatum, and Drew plays 28. And he had 11, 5, and 4. I maintain that if you're in a 10 or 12 points league, you don't need him. In a category league, he's obviously not really been anywhere close to where you think he's going to be. I would still hold. But the fact that everyone else had to get pushed up and he missed a game with knee soreness over the weekend and they held him back gives me a sizable worry here with Drew. As for Horf, 20-7 with 4 threes and 3 blocks. He just needs to be rusted. It seems like about 3 to 4 weeks away from Porzingis returning. So the guys that we've been streaming, like Neemias Queta, their value is not going to be there long term. And he had 5 and 4, and he really struggled here, Queta. He's a stream guy when Horford is out, and we saw those minutes sort of push back down. These games that we've gotten recently from Peyton Pritchard, I think are representative of what maybe he's able to do as we move forward. He was insane to begin the year, clearly, cooled back off, and we got, 13, 2 and 4 with 3 threes in 26 minutes? Reasonable. Maybe he loses a shot or two when Porzingis comes back, maybe 2 minutes or so. But I think what he's doing at the moment is relatively sustainable. Tatum was excellent, 33, 12, and 7. Al Horford, I talked about already. And Derek White with another strong game, 19, 6, and 5. And it's crazy the way that Derek White has been able to establish himself as, no, I'm clearly the Celtics' best guard. And nobody would debate you. I guess you could argue whether Jaylen Brown is a guard or not. And you could also argue whether Derek White's better than Jaylen Brown. I know most people would say it's Brown, but he plays as a forward almost exclusively, Jaylen. And he had a pretty rough shooting night here. 17 points for Brownie on 41%, but he did have the 8 assists and 1 steal. Let's move on to the second game of the day. We're talking Charlotte. We're talking Brooklyn. Another really good game. 116, Brooklyn gets the win over the Hornets 115. We'll start with the questions you're going to have on LaMelo Ball. 24 minutes, 12 points, 5 assists, 1 steal, 23%. Why is he playing so few minutes, Josh? Well, the easy answer is he was just terrible. He was bad and he got benched. He just careless, bad shots, and got benched. He was a -10 in a game that they lost by 1. He just was bad. Simple as that. I don't think there is anything long-term to worry about, but he was terrible. And with him seeing limited minutes, we got more Trey Mann. 19, 3, and 6 with 4 threes, and we've seen it. Miller is out, man goes off. Ball benched, man goes off. So we keep an eye when the usage players, Miller and Ball, if they're out, then we do add man back in. I wouldn't do it based on this. Speaking of Brandon Miller, he was excellent here. 29, 3, and 4, and he did it across the board. He had been really struggling with some of his shooting stuff, but he is on a very hot streak at the moment. The steals, the blocks, the shooting, it's all awesome at the moment. Maybe moving to a sell high, I don't know. And the winner of the center battle seems to be Grant Williams until BDNR comes back, and Mark Williams, who apparently has been spotted in a practice jersey. Is that real? I don't know. What I would also say, though, is that this is against the Nets, who don't run a center. So Grant was always going to have that advantage. And then Musa, and I said this on the preview show yesterday, there's 2 ways the Hornets could do this. You're going up against the Nets who don't really run a center, so you'll see nothing of Diabate, or they might say, well, let's run our bigger guy out there and try and take advantage. It was the former there, so Williams had 16, 7, and 4 with 3 blocks, and he is having some 12-team value. While Diabate went back to being a two-way player, 0 points, 7 rebounds, missed both of his shots. I don't think that there's a hold necessary there. And the other thing that also happened is Josh Green was Josh Green once more. 3 points after a couple of double-digit scorers. Best game from Tijan Salan, 11 and 8. Don't think we react to that too much. It was also a really good Miles Bridges game. He played 33 minutes, so that's back to normal. Actually, that's not true. Let me rephrase. It was a really good scoring game for Miles Bridges. The rest is empty. 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and no steals, no blocks. But in the last game, he shot relatively poorly, but he put up some nice... Did he shoot poorly? Don't. Anyway, that part doesn't matter. He put up really good rebounds and assists last game. This game, he didn't. But still, he's been better post-knee injury than he was pre-knee injury, which is not something that you always see happen, but it is happening here at the moment. On the Brooklyn side of things, we had a late scratch in this one. We got the situation where Cam Thomas was initially ruled as probable. They got downgraded to questionable, which is never a good sign. And then, of course, he was ruled out. So Jalen Wilson moved into the starting lineup. The volleyball had 17 points with 5 threes. And, a very Cam Thomas-ish line with nothing else there. Wilson and Zaire Williams, who was terrible here, 4 points. They're the guys that I think in March are going to be very interesting, along with Clowney, who also sucks at the moment. Wilson put up the good numbers. I don't know whether Thomas is going to remain out, but if he does, you stream in old mate Jalen. A sell high. I did a sell high show today, and I didn't have Cam Johnson on it, but he added this game to the ledger. Just look at this: 34, 5, and 4, 6 threes, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 55%. There's numerous things here which is very easy to put into a sell high. That's probably why it's going to be impossible to do, right? This is the way to do it. Well, it is the reasons. Look at the minutes. 38 minutes. But that's just not going to happen. He shot 55%. His usage was 32 with no Cam Thomas. And he's got a horrid history with injuries, and he's on a team that's probably going to trade him or shut him down later on. He is flying at the moment, Johnson. Huge minutes, great scoring, great shooting. But the likelihood of it sticking like this is very limited. It's all the likelihood of you getting anything good in a trade is also pretty limited, but it's worth looking at. I said it earlier, but with Claxo out, you can look at Finney Smith. He had 15 and 3 with 4 threes. He didn't have a block, but he shot really well. And there's just doing little bits and pieces, little Royce O'Neal type of things. If Royce O'Neal could hit a shot, and Finney Smith is doing well. Well, this is a 12-team Ben Simmons line. 10, 8, 5, 3 steals, 1 block. Fantastic. 71%, no free throws. Love it. Unbelievable. I don't trust it at all. Do you? But, again, top 100 in category leagues over the last 2 weeks. Do we do it? I don't think so. But for some of you, for certain teams and certain builds, we are getting not far off, not prime Ben Simmons is not the right word, but the peak of what our current expectations are, Ben Simmons. Also keep an eye on Trendon Watford. Played 19 minutes, pushed through a minutes restriction allegedly, 10 and 4, 1 steal, 2 blocks. We've seen from back in the day in Portland, when given the minutes, this man is a fantasy stat beast. And I don't know. There is some opportunity maybe arising. So we keep that name at the back burner. Dennis Schroeder, another poor shooting night, but he added the 12 assists. He added 2 blocks. Really, really trying to get back to being a top 5 player in the NBA according to Hoops Hype's global rating. But he's not quite there yet. So I don't think we need to get overly excited there. And he's just going to settle in as a back-end player until an injury or a trade or a fake, whatever, happens. Got more games we're going to talk about, including another game for the Nuggets without Big Chungus, Nikola Jokic. But before we do that, today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, what is it? I hear you ask. Well, it's the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to everybody. You just pick more or less on at least 2 individual player stat projections. You put them in there, and you can win up to 100x your money. Well, you can do it in all those places with all those members and all those billions of dollars, including states, 30 states, over 30 states, including the big 4, California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. The other states, we don't really care that much about them. It's mainly just those 4 that are important, and that's what I'm gathering from that. That is, of course, my own personal opinion and nothing to do with affiliation with PrizePicks. You can win 100x your cash with as little as 4 correct entries and all of the great things they have. Injury insurance is one of them. If a player you have in the first half gets hurt, doesn't come back in the second half, well, guess what? The legends over at PrizePicks will keep your lineup alive. It's not dead, which is just fantastic because you know what you can do. You can't predict injuries and you can't control them. So there you go. That's what we do over at PrizePicks. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right. I teased it. You didn't know it was going to happen, but we are going to cover the other games. Unbelievable tease. Radio professional. Let's go into talking about Big Chungus and his squad, even though Nikola Jokic wasn't there. And again, I will reiterate, the reason that Nikola Jokic is out is a personal matter. And it is not a negative personal matter, which, again, I think you can infer means that there is a birth of a child somewhere, and that is why he is out. I don't know when he'll be back. I imagine he'll be back very soon. But it's nothing bad. It's nothing that's going to linger long-term from everything that I believe, or not that I believe, everything that I've heard. And that is why he is not there. But they get the win after getting cooked in the other 2 games. It's huge for Denver to be able to get this win 122-110 over the Grizzlies. Talked about the headmaster in the Buy Low Sell High show saying that he had improved his ranking from when he was on the Buy Low show, and he's continuing to improve. 27 and 4, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 5 threes. Probably his best game of the year, almost definitely. Christian Brown continues to be awesome. Brown has never shown this before, but he has 100% improved, and he looks great. And I was wrong to say that I don't think he's going to be a good fantasy player, because this year, he keeps doing it. We wanted to watch the Peyton Watson minutes, and on the surface, it's bad. He played 25 minutes. You go, okay, well, that's not good enough. But it is good enough, I think. He fouled out in that time. He had 15 and 5, 2 threes, steal, block, 60%, keep holding. The poop cookie had 24 and 10, Michael Porter, but then like a random 2 of 6 from the line hurts. But overall, everything else is pretty good. While Šarić also got into foul trouble. He's useless. I don't think he's going to even play really when Jokic returns. He had 8 and 5 there. And we have to talk about Russell Westbrook getting 200 career triple-doubles. And there was a great... what was the tweet? There it is. From ESPN mentioning it, said Brody does what he wants. And I was about to reply. I thought I better not. The reply was like, I was going to say is, yeah, no, that's the problem. Brody does what he wants. We know that is why he's been bad for 5 years. But it is an awesome thing to be able to get that record. Putting together some very, very, very big games and some terrible ones in the process. He played 32 minutes. He had 12, 10, and 14. Westbrook with 2 steals and a block. And of course, was terrible at field goals and terrible at free throws. The extra minutes came because they need his creation and assist ability. Without Jokic out there, I wouldn't bother to go and add Russell Westbrook on the back of this game because I think that it's a Westbrook thing. It's a Jokic absence thing versus they're going to play him 30 minutes a night sort of thing. I don't think that's where we're going with that. On the Memphis side, like I said, there was no Zach Edey and there was no Marcus Smart and no Ja Morant. And then guess what? Vince Williams got hurt after 7 minutes. Okay. He sprained his ankle. They said he was doubtful to return. He never did. He had 4 points. He was probably going to sit tomorrow anyway, so he'll sit tomorrow there. At least you can put him back into your IL slot. And another setback. Just bad news. This team just cops it all the time. All the time. So what did that mean? Well, with him out, with Edey out, we got Santi Aldama back and Smart out. 28 and 11 with 4 threes. Now, go and check his game log and you'll see how bad it's been for Aldama. But no Smart, no Edey, no Williams. Unfortunately, Santa Claus is coming to town again. No? It's that time of the year. Yeah, I think you can consider re-adding Aldama because of the Edey/Williams injuries and Smart illness. The other stream guy is Jake LaRavia, who has been shooting over his head, but had a classic LaRavia here with 27%, but 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks, while Jaren had 9, 10, and 8, and 5 blocks. The thing I will continue to say, and I know that there is going to be someone in the comments that's going to be ready to pop off and leave a reply to this and say this, but I think that Scottie Pippen will become a drop. And this is why. No Morant, no Smart. So who's their point guard? Well, it's Pippen, but he plays 25 minutes. He's playing 25 minutes when the starting point guard and the backup point guard are out. And we really haven't seen this team with any level of health. And yeah, those guys might remain out, and you wouldn't drop Pippen immediately, but yeah, in 16, 6, and 6 is absolutely fine. It's really good, and we keep rolling with it. But it's requiring so many things, and he's not actually blowing up in those minutes. Sorry, I mean, his minutes aren't blowing through the roof. Speaking of blowing, Dennis Bain, that's his brother, Des Bain, 5 points on 10%. He had 5 rebounds, he had 5 assists, he had a steal. It's a really, really, really big buy low time. Because there's going to be frustrations. This guy, all of last year, my God. This guy, I waited all this time for him to come back, and now he can't even play minutes, and now he can't shoot. I don't think Bain's a top 30 player. Like, not close. Or maybe close. But a couple of real stinkers here. It's worth an inquiry. Without Edey, Brandon Clark, well, he kept starting. He was starting anyway. We thought maybe we'd get a little bit more of Jay Huff. Guess not. 6 points, 13 minutes. That's terrible. Huff had a couple of really, really big blow-up games. I know a lot of people streamed him in. I get why they did. Maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe Clark is the option, although Clark's 10 and 4. He's not particularly exciting either. So the team continues to be completely frustrating, and we're probably going to have no Morant, no Edey, no GG, no Vince tomorrow. Smart remains to be seen, but then Smart, has an opportunity now to pop up as a 12-team potential option just because of who's out, which is a lot of different people. Let's go on to the next one. We're talking about the Pelicans and the Mavericks, and again, I'll be honest with you in this game. I'm honest with you all the time. I don't know what I'm talking about here. 132 Dallas, 91 New Orleans. It's a 41-point victory. There's just not a lot to talk about. Trey Murphy played, not sure he will tomorrow. His shooting is still not there. There might be a little buy low there. 19 and 5 with 2 threes. Javonte Green finally had a good game, 14 and 5 with a block. Consider a stream tomorrow. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, 11 and 7 with 2 threes. Streamable tomorrow. BJ Boston, we just keep rolling, but he has 100% cooled off. 10 points, 2 threes, 36%, 2 steals. We keep holding. And then as soon as we see a CJ returning, which could be really soon, then we make an assessment on whether we hold BJ. And I honestly, I'm not sure how many good BJ games we're going to get after this. I would be very worried about Brandon Ingram from a fantasy value point of view. And this is why. Much like when talking about Pippen, Ingram is playing with no CJ, no DeJounte, no Zion, no Herb, no Jose, no Hawkins. And part of the reason or the way that Ingram has success is by having the ball in his hands. And I talked about this even on the Buy Low, Sell High show again this morning. He's not actually doing enough. Like 17, 5, and 4 in 33 minutes on 40%. And yeah, like there's a lot of attention on him, but that attention will go away and so will the ball when these guys return. I think we could get a huge decline from Ingram coming up. Eve Misi, the idea was Zion out, usage minutes up. Not really. 3 points, 9 rebounds, 23 minutes. If you want him, that's okay. But if you don't, also okay. And I also think he is going to lose value as things happen and players return. And he's just not really doing much in these opportunities that is being afforded to him at the moment. Also, a massive stinker from Jalen Noel. He took 9 shots, so we thought he'd do that, but 22%. He's very, very clearly not hitting the mark. Let's go on to the Dallas side of things. You want to talk about the most predictable thing in the world after PJ Washington tore the absolute ass out of Oklahoma City last game? He had 4 points in 25 minutes on 22%. Imagine a more PJ game than this. You can't. He had 2 blocks and he shot 22%. This is what the man does. That is why Gennaro Gattuso speaks about him that way. This is who he is. You roster him, but you literally never know. Luka banged his wrist in this one. He claims he's fine. Is it a lie? Probably. He was bad at the line. He was great from the field. He had 26, 5, and 5 with 3 steals. And then we also got a good Klay Thompson game. Does this mean that Klay Thompson is not washed? No. Another thing, again, we always want to remember this, is that superstars, and was Klay really a superstar? He was a sub-superstar. Maybe he was a super sub-star. I don't know. Something in there about that. But they can still have the big game. Can you do it 85% of the time instead of 20% of the time? And the 20% of the time, they look great. 19 points, 5 threes, 24 minutes. That's a great game, Klay. But he still shot 40%. He still doesn't do anything else. And I don't think you need to roster him in 12-team leagues. Grimy was pretty good. 12, 8, 3, 1 briefcase, 1 haircut, 1 block, and 2 threes in 23 minutes for Grimes. But I think there's very little to see on the Dallas side of this, considering just look at the minutes. I am worried about the centers. Lively, Gafford, you get a little bit of Kleber mixed in there. I would still make sure Gafford and Lively are rostered in 12-team leagues. Points leagues? Maybe not, though. In fact, 10-team points, you probably don't need Lively or Gafford. 12-team points? Borderline. But I would hold in category leagues, even though it remains frustrating. And we got a good Najee Marshall game, 15 and 3 steals with 3 assists. But, again, what matters in this game? Not really very much at all. It was a blowout. It was an easy victory. And that skews a lot of the results. Let's go on to the next game in a massive upset. The Thunder go down to the San Antonio Spurs without Victor Wembanyama and without Devin Vassell. Now, I know the Thunder have no Chet and no Hartenstein, but they're awesome, and the Spurs are not. 110 San Antonio, 1-4 Oklahoma City. Let's talk about the Bronco because he was great again. Jalen Williams took 26 shots. He had 27, 9, and 6 with 5 steals in 34 minutes. It continues to absolutely dominate at the moment. Top 10 over the last 2 weeks. Almost the first rounder for the year. Points leagues, he's a top 20 player. He's been unbelievable. And what is, again, crazy, that he has been better than Shea over the last 2 weeks. Shea was great, don't get me wrong. 32, 4, and 7 with 2 steals. And imagine a game where Shea Gilgeous-Alexander hits 5 triples and shoots 55%. And they still lose. Cason Wallace, very good. Love that from him. 13, 3, and 7, 3 threes and a block. I do like Cason long-term as a player. Someone left a comment on one of my videos, and I talked to them, but I'll address it here. It's like, man, how come you never talk about dynasty and keep leagues? I think I do a little bit, but it's like, surely most people don't play 1-year leagues. It's like, I mean, they do though. That's the thing. I think, and we all put ourselves in a bubble of what we do. Think, well, I play keeper leagues. Why no one else does? I think it's probably 95% redraft and 5% dynasty across all leagues. Yeah, there's obviously a bunch of dead leagues and try to get the numbers, but the vast majority do play in redraft. And part of the reason why I don't do specific dynasty focuses or really dig into a lot of dynasty stuff is A, it's a tiny percentage of the audience, and B, there are so many different rules, especially if you're talking keeper. Do you keep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? How do you keep them? 2 years, 3 years, salary inflation, draft pick loss. It's impossible to give any advice on that sort of stuff. So when I do it, you'll find it sprinkled in. I don't normally sit down Dynasty as I move to my second camera that doesn't exist. I don't ever sit there and go, hey, this is the Dynasty part, but I talk about guys that I like Kaysen Wallace. Kentucky guard who's in a position at the moment where it's a little bit weird in terms of his role. Doesn't have to do much. I think he's got way more that he can do. It's going to require multiple things to change. Different team, someone else moving on this team, whatever it is. But I really like Kaysen. And that's, when I talk like that, about that long-term view, that's sort of the dynasty keeper stuff that I'm onto. But I'm not going to really do much specific things. So to that guy, that's why. And then also that tackles us there. But that's great from Kaysen. There was no Joe in this game, so that helped. But I don't think this means that we lock into Kaysen again. Game log. Let's look at the game log. What's the other games been like? Yeah, not very good. Like, they're fine. He gets some steals. He occasionally hits some threes. But this sort of stuff, not a real thing. I talked about how did they lose if Shea and Jalen Williams are shooting that well. Well, Lou Dort shot 17% and Alex Caruso shot 14%. Dort has been really good this season. He still had 6 and 12 with 2 steals, a block, and 2 threes. But yeah, that shooting's horrible. Unfortunately for Alex Caruso, that shooting's the norm. That's what he's done all season. And he continues to be incredibly disappointing. Although I will say, he played 26 minutes, the Rabbit Hunter. He got 3 steals and a block. 26 minutes of Alex Caruso is a 12-teamer. I'm not saying to run and grab him, but if we hear that, like Isaiah Joe's out for a little bit more time, and I don't know that we know that at this point, the fact that they pushed him to 26 is interesting. They started Wiggins. He had 11 and 3 with 3 threes. He's like just, a fringe sort of a player. But Wallace's game is probably the most intriguing one here, as well as those minutes to Caruso. We also got a really early entry into the game to AJ Mitchell. Didn't really do much with it. And then 15 minutes of Dylan Jones. We didn't get any Brandon Carlson, though. I thought we might get a little bit, but I guess the Spurs weren't that big in this one. There was no Wemby. There was no Vassell. So that meant that we got some different sort of lineups for the Spurs, and we got some different players having to step up. And boy, did they. You know who stepped up? The pencil. Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. He had 20 points. He shot 50% from the field. He had 7 rebounds. He had 3 threes. He had 63% from the line. Well, that's a bit rough. But now, Barnesy can put the cue in the rack, go to the jukebox, put on a bit of a Kaysen, and just sit back and have one of these in another 3 weeks. That's a great game. But I don't care. I'm not adding him. I'm not doing anything apart from a short-term step. There's nothing long-term to see. It was also a great opportunity to see what Steph Castle can bring. And the 8 assists are really good. But he shot 23%. He had 10 points. He hit 1 3. And despite every opportunity that he's getting at the moment, he's not cutting it for 12-team leagues. You might want to hold just to see what happens with Vassell's knee. But there's no Vassell. There was no Wemby. There was no Sohan. And he's still he's more of a 14 to 16-team league player. And that's okay. The 8 assists are fine. But I wouldn't say that he's a must roster. Chris Paul had a bit of a thumb problem, but he was fine. 14, 5, and 11, big numbers from him. And there was also time to see more of the horse. Keldon Johnson got 22 points. He got 22 points? That sounds so stupid. He scored 22 points. He played 29 minutes. He had 6 threes. He had no defensive stats, of course, but look, that is what he does. He can play on a team where he's forced to be a high usage level player because the other good players are out, and that's when he does stuff. And that's good. That's a good game. But it's not real. Like, Vassell and Wemby aren't out every game. And Johnson still won't do this, and they still didn't start him. So don't overreact to this game. You stream him in if they're out, and that's about it. Zach Collins, 12 and 7, 111. That's fine. You hold on to him while Wemby's out. And if you've got stash ability, he's a nice little pairing guy. And all you double onyx marble, titanium alloy, platinum legends, I gave you the Charles Bassey one yesterday. Gave it to you. I'm sure he was added in your league, but if he wasn't, maybe you added him. Goldfinger had 12 and 8, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 21 minutes. He is one of the best, if not the best, probably not the best, but one of the best per minute fantasy producing big men in the entire NBA. He's had a lot of injury problems. He's a long way down the depth chart, but that is what he is. And in situations where he can play 20 minutes, well, he'll put up 12-team numbers. And that's what Bassey did. Don't run to add Bassey. Don't do that. It's a deeper league. It's a stream. Because if Wemby plays, he'll do nothing. But just remember it. Terrible night from Trey Jones, 3 points in 17 minutes. We do not roster him in 10s or 12s or, honestly, 14-team leagues. And Malaka Branham had 3 points, and he's like a 30-team league guy at this point. I didn't talk about Buble, but I will now. Julian Champagny, he had 12 and 7, 2 steals and a block. That's reasonable. It's good enough. We hold that in 12s while players are out, and when they're healthy, then he gets dropped. It's a tale as old as time. And now we go to what will forever be known as the Dalton Knecht game. The Jazz and the Lakers. Jazz run out the same starting lineup. They lose at 118-124. And let's start by talking about the speaker, Keyonte George, because he was brutal in the first half. So much so that I sent out a tweet. Maybe he's just that guy that I hated as a prospect at Baylor. And then he ended up with 18, 1 and 6 on 54% shooting. Didn't take a free throw. So I guess I got to stick with it now. But what is also interesting for Keyonte George is that it doesn't prove the point, because it's one thing, but it backs up the point that I make. Starting point guard, high usage, assists upside, they're so valuable in fantasy. I don't know that he's going to be good. In fact, he's probably terrible. But this was good. This was better than good. And it at least makes you go, where else do I find this? What other player is this? I don't know. I'm sucked in, unfortunately. The Baptist John Collins goes 18 and 8, a little bit down on what he's been doing, but still really good. And we actually got a really good Larry Markkinen game, 25 and 8 with 3 threes and 2 steals. Anytime you can get a top 50 player, I would say, top 50 player in a trade, I would do that to get rid of him. Well, it's also a really good Colin Sexton game, and he just remains one of the more confounding and confusing players. 19 points, 4 assists, 2 threes, 32 minutes. He might play 25 in the next game. For now, we roll with him, but I just think there's going to be more frustration. I do actually like what I'm seeing for Kyle Filipowski. And you'll look at this and go, Josh, he scored 3 points. It's true, he did. 3 points, that's all he did. But he's a center. He had 6 assists, he had 2 steals, he had 5 rebounds. The 25 minutes are interesting. If I've got the ability to hold to see what happens when Walker Kessler returns, I'm interested in doing that. Now, he's a rookie, he's a second rounder, and it might be nothing. So, look, I wouldn't high prioritize it and go, you must do this under all circumstances, but there was enough there. At least more so than Cody Williams, who had 1 rebound in 8 minutes. Isaiah Collier basically split the minutes with George in the first half and then not so much in the second. Good steals again. 4 assists is solid. He cannot shoot like worse than Keyonte. So we keep an eye on him. We put him in the back of our minds and we don't really do much with that. While Jordy Clarkson, 18 in 26 minutes, fine to roster now, but we know that it's not going to be a long-term thing because that's just what Jordan Clarkson does. The man on the street does go back and forward quite a bit. We've seen that happen time and time and time again. Okay, so now it is that time. In fact, it's about that time for us to talk about the Lakers. They did make a change to their starting lineup. They rushed back Cam Reddish into the starting lineup, moving Max Christie to the bench. So where do you want to start? Dalton Knecht? Let's start with Dalton Knecht. At the top of the show, I told you he was the most added player, and I said he's on a real hot streak. Like, add him. I think I'm in 9 leagues this season. I've actually got him in 4. And that's not even including industry pickup, where I chucked out that bid to see if someone would go for him, and then I got him in that one, and then I ended up dropping him 2 days into the season. Knecht was unbelievable here. He is starting at the moment, and always when we're paying attention to things. Is the guy that he's starting because of injury good? And the answer is no, because it's Rui Hachimura, and he's not that good. Can Knecht play next to Rui? That I'm not really sure about. Maybe he can. But at the moment, I don't know that it matters. We'll see what happens when Vanderbilt's back, and eventually if he ever comes back, and when Rui is back. But at the moment, like we talked about this maybe 2-3 games ago with Knecht as a guy to have a crack at and see where it goes, and we'll go from there. I haven't even told you what he did. Actually, you know what? Interesting thing would be to do with Knecht. We're all hyping him up here. He had 5 rebounds, 0 assists, 1 steal, and 0 blocks. You go, okay. It's nothing, is it? It's not good. Yeah, that's true. And that's keep it in mind. But he was unbelievable with his shooting. 37 points, 9 triples, 75% from the field, and 75% from 3. They are ludicrous numbers. Here's the stat. I did put this out on Blue Sky, saying that, I found an interesting stat, and then I believe they might have even put something like this up on the broadcast. But in the last 4 games, from 3, Dalton Knecht is 22 of 33 in 4 games. So he's taking over 8 threes a game and hitting them at 67%. You don't even need me to follow that up with this won't stick. You don't. The 6 games prior to that, he was 5 from 24. That's about 20%. What does that mean? Nothing but everything. This is what it means. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden he is the literal best shooter of all time. That's not what that means. It doesn't mean that he's figured it out. What it means is that the 20% was well below who he is, and I think we all knew that. And 67% is, like, it's cheating. If you are 67% shooter, you are cheating long term. That's all it is. So what I always want to see with this sort of stuff is, because that won't hold. He won't play 38 minutes a night. What else do you do? Unfortunately, the answer at the moment for Knecht is nothing. Literally nothing else. I think he will maintain starting for a period of time here. It'll be very interesting what Redick does between Reddish, Hachimura, and Knecht. And again, Reddish and Hachimura are bad. So there is a chance that he starts, but he will not be like this. And we have seen also a pattern with Redick. When the shots go in, just keep feeding him. And that's what happens. But in the games where he couldn't shoot him, he was under 5 attempts per game. So it's an awesome performance. He should be grabbed in all spots. It's one of the biggest sell highs you'll ever see, because everyone is going to be this guy's going to be fluffed so hard. I don't think he's going to be able to sit down. Like, it is going to be crazy, the stuff that goes on after this game. And yet those last 4 games have been unbelievably good. The shooting has been ridiculously good. Even his 2s, I think he's at 70% over that time. In fact, let me go and have a look at that, because that's important too. What's he shooting on his 2-pointers over that stretch? Where are we? 2-point percentage last 4 games. 67, 57, 71, 75. He had an effective field goal percentage today of 103. He had a true shooting of 101.6. But that's not even his best game, because 4 games ago he had a true shooting of 119. So it's just not going to stick in any capacity at all. In those 4 games, he's totaled 5 assists. He hasn't had a single block. He has had 17 rebounds in 4 games, which is fine. And he's attempted 7 free throws in 4 games. So, again, to be clear, incredibly impressive. A ridiculous shooting streak that was backed up by an absolutely horrible one before that. He has a massive shot to start and play 30 plus minutes. He can do that. He can easily do that. But we've got to be very careful about A, what we drop when we add him, and B, if you're making any trades, see how you go. Because it's also the must-add / sell high all at the same time. Yep, we got that. Did I give enough credence? Did I talk enough good things about him? Yep, we're good. Awesome stuff. Unbelievable stuff. Will not continue. It might for another game. No idea when. But we'll have to understand what else comes with it. Anthony Davis got hit in the dick, and then he returned to the game. 26, 14, and 6 there, while D'Lo, sort of signs of life, but also not really. 26 minutes. He was in the closing lineup, Russell. 8 points, 25%, but 6 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, and a block. And unfortunately for me, much like with Keontae George, that's enough for me to go, maybe I'll hold and we'll see what they do. But again, the way that Knecht is playing makes me think it's going to be very hard for Russell to find his way back into a sizable role. The guy that is starting over Russell is Cam Reddish. He had 4 points. Cool, good for him. He did have 2 steals and he did have 2 blocks, and he's like an Alex Caruso on this team. And maybe the team needs an Alex Caruso. I just don't think he's that good at it, but maybe they need that. And LeBron took a little bit of a backseat, 26, 2, and 12, and Reeves had 17 with 5 assists. The story here obviously is Knecht, Russell with a few little signs, and Reddish getting you the defensive stats. Overall, the Lakers, another victory, and they are continuing to play quite well at the moment. Let's go into the monstrous line of the night. Who is your prediction? And if you say Dalton Knecht, you're wrong. The monstrous line of the night is not that. That's the wrong number. Oh, we've got a picture of Jared McCain, so there you go. You can just feast your little eyes on that as I try and figure out where it is. Why is that coming up? Oh, there it is. Let's get rid of it. Sorry, just a whole Jared McCain little sideshow there for you. Jayson Tatum is the line of the night. 33, 12, and 7 for old mate Jace. And then we go into, what's the next one? Oh, it's the waiver wire line of the night. Dalton Knecht does not qualify for this one, guys. He's been rostered in too many spots, and he's still available in a lot of Yahoo spots, and you need to go and add him. Doesn't qualify for this award. The waiver wire line of the night, in fact, goes to a man that is 45% rostered on Basketball Monster. It's Russell Westbrook. 12, 10, and 14 with bad percentages, but good counting stats. That's enough to get him over the line. The young gun of the night. Well, let me tell you again, if you thought that this one was Dalton Knecht, well, actually, you were correct this time. 37 points, 9 of 12 threes. Not a lot else going on, but that is a ludicrously insane hot streak night. And the dud of the night. Who's your dud of the night? The worst performer who is highly rostered. Again, not a difficult one. The man was a 10% legend, Des Bain. 5 points, 5 rebounds. He did have 5 assists, but he shot 10% on 1 of 10 shooting from the field. What about your top 6 players across the day on Tuesday? Number 1, of course, was Jayson Tatum. He came in as the best category league player of the day, followed by Cam Johnson, Brandon Miller, Dalton Knecht, the Bronco Jalen Williams, and then his teammate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Your waiver wire top 6 of the day, number 1 is Russell Westbrook, and number 2 is Ben Simmons. Both of them sit at 45%, and both of them with some short-term stream appeal. Jake LaRavia, with Vince Williams going down, I think he's a solid enough stream guy tomorrow. Tijan Salans came out of nowhere. Salin came out of nowhere for the Hornets. I think we could safely ignore that for the time being. Zach Collins is worth it while Wemby is out, and the other one's Kaysen Wallace, who was good, but it's all about trying to find some consistency there with that Thunder team. The Yahoo Points League top 6 of the day. Number 1 is Jalen Williams, followed by Jayson Tatum, Anthony Davis, Jamal Murray, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Brandon Miller. And your top 6 on ESPN points, it is at the top, Jalen Williams, Brandon Miller, Jayson Tatum, Dalton Knecht, Anthony Davis, and the headmaster, Jamal Murray. That is the end of the show. Some people say, hey, at the end of the show, Josh, you used to give us a little recap of who's the must-adds and that. And maybe I will start bringing that back in a more formalized way. But I'll put it this way. I think that Dalton Knecht is a guy that we go and grab. That's probably the major standout there to me. That's the guy that's sitting around. Grant Williams, if he's around, I don't mind an ad of him. But nothing else sort of hugely stood out to me as a must-grab or a must-drop type scenario across the day's play. So what you can do in the meantime is if you are a believer in 67% shooting from Dalton Knecht, you can hit a thumb. If you don't believe that Dalton Knecht will be a 67% shooter, you can also hit a thumb up. You can subscribe and you can leave your comments down below. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.